Hey guys, Luke Innes here. Today I'm reviewing a bona fide classic of a horror movie. Before we get into this though, I should say that this video was actually requested by a YouTube user called Cthulhu Reviews. I shall leave a link to his channel in the description below. Make sure you go and check it out, it's hilarious. They're the funniest, most bad reviews you'll ever see on YouTube. He reviews a lot of awful music like Yes. Incidentally, if you do want to submit a request, stop it, turn away. I ain't about that life. Don't even think about leaving a comment with a request. I'm only doing this because John happened to request one of my favourite movies of all time, possibly my favourite, and that's the reason I'm doing it. Plus, I kind of like him, even though his channel's goofy as fuck. So, the subject of today's video is Tobe Hooper's 1974 masterpiece, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The film stars Marilyn Burns and Gunnar Hansen, as well as an ensemble cast of several other young actors from around the Texas area. The film's plot is very simple. It essentially follows a group of 5 youths who head out on a drive in the height of the Texas summer to check on a graveyard out in rural Texas where Sally and Franklin, 2 of the group's grandfather, was buried. There's been a series of grave robbings at this graveyard, and they want to check that his body's not been tampered with. After checking on the graveyard, they discover that no harm has come to the body. They plan to drive home, but they can't get petrol. So they decide to take a look around. They head and they visit the old house that their grandparents lived at, and they sort of take a bit of a look around. One by one, they come into contact with a psychopathic killer named Leatherface, who has absolutely no issues dishing out beatings with his mallet. Look, I'm going to get it out of the way as quickly as possible, man. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of my favourite movies of all time. It's tied for my favourite of all time. I think this is the best horror movie ever made. I feel like this is just the most kinetic movie possible. It is a very pure form of filmmaking. I mean, the fact that there's very little memorable dialogue in this movie. It's very naturalistic. This film goes to lengths to portray reality. You know, a lot of the camera work makes it feel almost like a documentary at times. It's almost like a kind of improvisational camera work. And just everything about the movie seems so keen to portray a real world environment. Even down to the fact that the film has, I mean, an incredibly slow pace to start with. This is a real slow burner of a movie. The pace in the first half is glacial, but the setup ultimately is ingenious, because obviously the film starts up with that opening crawl text about the tragedy that befell these 5 youths on an idyllic summer's drive that became a nightmare. There's a little thing sitting in the back of your mind that something totally out of the ordinary is going to happen shortly. You just wait for it. You wait for it and you wait for it and you wait for it. And it takes like 40 minutes to see Leatherface for the first time. In that time, you just the suspense kind of goes up and down. It builds, you know, it peaks and troughs. Because you know that something is coming, something major is on its way. And even though it's an incredibly slow burner, it manages to keep you hooked for all that time. Even though this isn't a feature that really relies on witty dialogue, it's very much about the visual. It's about portraying a message through what you can see on screen in front of you. To juxtapose that as well with the soundtrack of the film, but in terms of the sort of score, if you want to call it that, it is so off the wall. It is like this avant-garde noise. I don't even know how to describe it. Like this avant-garde noise music, weird, crazy score done by Tobe Hooper. It's like these layers of echo and reverb over these really basic sounds that are like really heavily manipulated. It's crazy, okay, but it fits perfectly with the visuals on screen. To combine those two things makes for a very, very interesting watch. The kind of the long and storied history of the movie sort of stems from the fact that the gore in the movie is very minimal. In Britain, the movie was banned for 25 years. It took for the film to get a BBFC approved release, because there was nothing that you could cut from the movie realistically that would change the atmosphere. It was all about the atmosphere, kind of, in a way, this film got banned because it was too scary. It's just too scary of a film for people to watch. There's like 5 or 6 shots that have even got any blood in them in this whole movie. For a massacre, that's very few. But it's just the oppressive atmosphere, the terrorisation that you feel like you're going through the course of this movie. That is what makes this such an effective horror movie. I mean, I could go on for hours and hours about this movie, and I've got to say that the negatives are so few and far between, and to be honest, they have no diminishing impact on my high faults of this movie. I mean, there is the odd thing here and there. I mean, there's a couple of scenes where there's some goofs and stuff. When he cuts his hand with Franklin's flick knife, like you can see like the piping where the blood is coming out on the knife when he holds it up. But things like that, ultimately, I don't know why they just don't remove me from that world. They really don't. I feel like I'm there every time, man. In addition to that, I mean, the acting is so naturalistic from most of the cast, and it contributes so much to that realism that the film seeks to portray. And then with the family, I mean, they do totally. It's weird because the Leatherface's family, against this kind of very naturalistic acting of the kids, their acting is so hammed up. They totally chew the scenery in every scene, particularly Jim Seadow as the cook. Just the way he just flits between being by far the most empathetic character of the family and being like this utter psychopath. Like there is no way that you could accurately explain or understand or get inside his head on that. It is superb. Gunnar Hansen as Leatherface. Leatherface is not like a Jason or a Michael Myers. He is essentially like a retarded kid in an adult's body, a huge hulking powerful adult's body, and he is like this kind of, he gets pushed around by his family. Ultimately, he is on the defensive when he does, he commits the kills. So Gunnar Hansen just played that role so perfectly. There was never a Leatherface that even compared to him. As I say, regardless of its flaws, I love this movie dearly, and I feel like it is very much a perfect horror movie. And for that reasoning, I've got no choice but to give it a score of 10 out of 10. This is, as I say, the perfect horror movie. It is superb. I would recommend it to everyone. I feel like this is genuinely a masterwork of cinema. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Luke Innes. Thank you very much, John, for the request. Make sure you check out my podcast, Ironcast. The link is in the description, as always. So until next time, thanks for watching.